Jim Rowan, how's it going? It's the 2nd of January 2021, and I am yet to talk about the Best of Super Juniors tournament. I know how late it is, but I said I'd do it, so I'm going to do it. It is a cloudy day. It is a new year. But the last tournament took a long time. Let's just go straight into it. I don't know how great the format was last time, where I just kind of go through the lead up to the last match of the round, but I couldn't think of anything better, so we're going to do that again. Let me scroll down here. Actually, I should have this in a different window. That would be smart. Okay, I've got the final round here. So it was a combined card, of course, in Fukuoka. And I listened to the English commentary, Chris Charlton, Kevin Kelly, and Gino Gambino. The first match on that card was Yuya Uemura versus Robbie Eagles. So we'll go through Uemura's tournament first, or should I say you win Mora? Okay, so he first faced Master Wato in the opener and went down to a Tenzan Tombstone Driver. So he says after the match he wants to make it clear that he's not just a replacement, and he will win. Next he had Bushi, and they both had 0 points here. Someone has to get off the mark, and it's Bushi. He hits the standing MX and then an F5 MX, which I liked. So Bushi goes up to 2 points. Uemura still on 0. He's really disappointed after this one. He says he only cares about winning, but he isn't good enough. He'll find victory no matter what. Next up he had Desperado, and he tries the Kanuki, but it's reversed into a single leg crab, and then transitioned into Numero Dos, but it was kind of a sloppy transition, and Uemura finds the ropes quickly. There was another slack move from Desperado, this time countered into a flying armbar, and the champion is in considerable trouble until his foot meets the bottom rope. And then there's just a quick eye poke and a cradle crucifix pin to steal the victory, but it really seemed like Desperado came in underestimating Uemura, so he got really close over a big name opponent, a champion. Uemura did, but a bit of a heartbreaker for him. He cries out in exasperation with his hands on his head after the match, and Desperado does give him some credit in his promo, that it was a pretty tough match. Speaking of champions, Uemura had Taiji Ishimori next, and again, he gives the champ a real go. He fights out of a crossface, he reverses a bloody cross, he goes really close to a submission of his own, an armbar, but it's a variation on that crossface that ends up finishing Uemura's night, despite a great showing. And I noted here, by the way, that Uemura is not much taller than little old bone soldier there, so that's a shame. Sometimes it's hard to tell how tall they are, and unfortunately that does play a part in how successful they're going to be moving forward, but still, good stuff from him so far. He's frustrated to admit that he's behind the competition in this tournament, but hopes to pick up a win at some point. Next up, oh gee, he had a few tough ones in a row here. Hiromu Takahashi was next for Uemura, who beats Uemura with a double leg crab. Just a former Young Lions message to a current one, I guess, rubbing it in. Uemura recalls backstage, after a match at Fantastica Mania, Hiromu told him to go harder, and he was reminded tonight of Hiromu's superiority, but that's not new. Uemura feels inferior to all of his opponents. He still looks forward to the next one and hopes to turn things around. And one day wants to be number one in the world and will not worry about weight classes. And Hiromu was impressed with Uemura. He says he wants to see him, more of him, so that was nice. Okay, still winless. Uemura takes on Ryusuke Taguchi, and the fans really get behind Yuya in this one. They want to see him pick up the win, but Taguchi isn't taking the young lion lightly, and works hard on the ankle, eventually forces a submission there. And it often looks like he's goofing off, says Uemura of Taguchi, but his talent is astounding to him. Uemura says he will definitely defeat Doki. Oh, I guess get that wrong every time. Next time out, Doki Choki, that's how I remember it now. And Taguchi gave him some encouragement as well, as seems to be the trend. Next up is that Doki match. They're both on 0 points at this stage of the tournament. So, once again, someone's got to remove themselves from the bottom of the table here. And it is a suplex de la Luna that does it for Doki. Uemura learned why Doki acts so tough after having confidence he could beat him. Doki doesn't think Uemura should be called a young lion. In fact, he doesn't even believe he's a junior. He thinks he should be a heavyweight. So, even nice words from Doki. And this isn't the... Oh, he faced... hold on. Final round. Have I got this right? So next in the line up here, we've got Uemura and Sho. And they went more than 15 minutes. Like, they had a decent match here. Obviously, pretty decent effort by Uemura based on that alone. But Sho's not too far removed from the same spot, I guess. Obviously, on the other side of Excursion and coming back with his own deal and a couple championships in fairness. But shows himself to be top of the pile here. He goes to 10 points, but we'll get to that, or 12 points actually. Uemura makes a lot of it. He makes a lot of being from the same hometown as Sho. So he's got a connection to Sho, Uemura does. And he wants his first win over a senpai in this tournament. So perhaps that is to come with Robbie Eagles, the Bogan Chihuahua. That's the final match, as opposed to the muscular Chihuahua. So let's go through Robbie Eagles' tournament. He started his tournament facing Doki. And he beat Doki with the Ron Miller special. Apparently, I should learn more about Ron Miller. He was a very influential... influential person in Australian wrestling. So that's what that name's... how that move got its moniker. But it's like, yeah, inside toe hold, figure four leg lock, Doki submits, and yeah, I just noticed since Eagles is back, I just haven't heard him for a while, and his accent really stood out to me, and I don't like it. I don't think that's how I sound. Okay, next up he had Wato. And, okay, actually this is going to be quick, I'll be honest. I really don't care for Robbie Eagles. I don't dislike him, I don't care about his matches or his promos, so this is going to go quickly. So he beat, I didn't write a lot about his matches. He beat, sorry, no, he did not. Wato hits the Tombstone Tenzan driver, or Tenzan Tombstone driver, the TTD, and follows up with an RPP, that corkscrew senton bomb, to beat Eagles. Robbie remembers watching Tenzan hit that move on Tanahashi in the G1, but he didn't expect it here. He taunts El Phantasmo for not being in the tournament. He faces Sho next. He's got the other thing I don't like about Eagles is his super like throat shreddy death metal theme song. I like heavy metal, but that was too much. Anyway, he's got that vibe. I don't know. Like, I bet he likes what's that bring me to the horizon. Like, he's one of those guys. Sorry if you like that. I don't know. I don't listen to them. Maybe there's some of their songs that I like, but it's just kind of a fan base that I picture that he is a part of. Anyway, this one I guess I thought was pretty good because I wrote a fair bit about it. That Robbie, oi, oi, oi chant is detestable to me, by the way. Just another thing that I don't like about him. I'm not going to go through this match. Robbie Eagles beat Show, which is crazy to me. Oh, that's right. I've already talked about this match anyway. He did that. He's like raising Show's arm. It's supposed to be a gesture that's in goodwill, but it's just condescending when they're equals. I already ranted about that, I think. So, didn't write anything about what Robbie had to say after that match. He next faced Bushi, who picked up the win. Lost to Bushi with an MX. And he really oversells Eagles. And his accent is annoying, is what I've got here. And then he faced the champion. Eagles botches a sliced bread number 2. Ishimori goes for the crossface at first, but then finishes him with a bloody cross instead. So goes down to Ishimori. And he's still doing this really silly goofball selling after the match. Next he faced Takahashi. And if he doesn't beat... that's weird, calling him Takahashi. If he doesn't beat Hiromu, he's mathematically eliminated from the tournament. And I heard this was a really good match, but I just don't have a lot of time for Eagles. So, apparently the Hiromu had a hurt leg, and so the Ron Miller special exposes that. Hiromu survives, reaches for the ropes, a couple of big lariats, and then he goes for his finish, but Eagles counters again and again. Finally, Hiromu lands the move, allowing him to set up the Time Bomb 2. So that's kind of a, in a sense, like a bit of a compliment. Hitting him with the Time Bomb 2, feeling like he needs the super finish. Hiromu really liked the match, he says, because I guess this would have been the main event, so he calls out after. Robbie says that match was awesome. Yeah, anyway. Eagles are still only on 4 points here. He takes on Taguchi next. Juicy Gambino. Gambino makes fun of Eagles' height, which instantly puts him over as a babyface with me. And then this is when he explained the Ron Miller. He said, look, this is Gambino, Gino with some good commentary here, adding a little. He says he's the godfather of Australian wrestling, is how he describes Ron Miller. So there you go. Eagles reverses the ankle lock into the Ron Miller special, and while Taguchi does attempt a form of defense in pulling down his tights, he soon succumbs to the pain of the hold and quits. So Robbie goes up, 6 points there, and Eagles knows he cannot win the tournament, but wants to push toward the biggest score he can and prove his worth. He says he always beats Taguchi. Well, he doesn't always beat Desperado, because that's who we had next, and he didn't win. Pinche Loco did it. 1, 2, 3. Despy saw Eagles doubting himself and offers him some encouragement. Act like you belong, because everyone knows Bushi is the lame one. That's nice of him. So, okay, we got to their final match here. It's Uemura on 0 points taking on Robbie Eagles on 6 points. And it's a pretty short match. It ends with a Ron Miller special. The fans extend approbation toward Uemura for his efforts in this tournament. And Robbie Eagles ends up with a decent score of 8. Uemura, unfortunately, not getting off the mark in this tournament, losing every match. So he says afterwards, Uemura, he didn't get the win he wanted, but he gained something great, experience to build his career on. He thanks everyone involved for the opportunity. Eagles is, he says he feels like he's on fire. He appreciates Uemura's determination. I think when he says he feels like he's on fire, not in the sense that he's doing great, more that he's in pain. And he screeches like he's in pain. That just is what his voice sounds like. It's real annoying. Whatever else he said probably wasn't important, so whatever. Look, I actually thought New Japan thought more highly of Eagles. So I can't say I'm displeased. Although all the reports I heard on him from people that actually like his matches said that they were good. I don't know why I don't like him. It is what it is. And on Uemura, yeah, I mean, obviously doesn't win, but what he said was right. It was a great experience for him, and you know, he had some good matches. All right, so the next finals match was, or final round match, I want to be clear, was the pretty cool Blokey Doki versus, that's another way to remember it, Blokey, versus Ryusuke Chiguchi. So we'll go through Doki's matches first here. He started with Robbie Eagles, as we just talked about, and lost to the Ron Miller special. After the match, Doki asked who his next opponent is, and no one seems to know or care, so he just kind of curses and walks off. He had Sho next, and Doki attacks him before Sho's even taken off his hoodie, but the momentum gained is short-lived. He tries a few tricks in this one, but yeah, this is the one I've spoken about this weeks ago now, but that's how long ago the tournament was. But yeah, I thought he'd kicked out of Sho's finish, but apparently this is when I discovered Sho's just kind of got a lazy version of his finish. So he did the real one, got the win. Doki stays 0. Doki hates losing to Sho, and he hates losing to Sho the most, is what he says, and will get his revenge. Sho recalls their matches in Mexico, but is in contrast rather complimentary of Doki. Next up, Doki had Taiji Ishimori. There's a cute little Doki fan in the crowd. Oh, that's right, I made fun of him last time. Don't go back and listen to that, I'm a bad person. And this one ends with, I mean, Doki tries to take the win with the pipe by force. So he hits Ishimori across the stomach, but Taiji grabs the title belt and cracks the pipe out of Doki's hand, which apparently the title was okay. Ishimori hits the bloody cross, wins that way, and Doki said he thought this would be a pure lucha match. He recalls a comment from Despy-san about his promo ability, or lack thereof. Oh no, hold on. Sorry, I said he here. Pronouns, pal, but that's what Ishimori said. So we'll get to that when we're talking about Ishimori. Doki just said, Blokey Doki just said, he thought it would be a pure lucha match. With a pole included. Next up, Doki had Hiromu. And this was, I mean, I kind of skipped through it a little bit, but this looked like a really good match. They're both very creative guys. And Doki falls to a time bomb. Poor Doki. He's thumping the concrete in frustration. He says he's been waiting to face Hiromu for 6 or 7 years, and he's just distraught with the result. But then he says he had fun anyway. Wato is up next, and the RPP, the corkscrew senton bomb. That's not obviously what it stands for, but that's what it is, the move. It's good. It's a very cool move from Wato, by the way, but that's, despite several Doki chokies, Wato picks up the win there. And Doki's still bitter about Hiromu being so popular. Wato felt let down by Doki because he wanted a fair fight. Yeah, well, don't we all? Next up, Doki's got his Suzuki-gun teammate, El Desperado. And despite their affiliation, Despy is slow to release numero dos when Doki reaches the ropes, so he's not holding back at all. He keeps going back to that move as Doki struggles with the leg. There was a crazy monkey flip on the apron, sending Despy's back into the edge on his way down to the floor. And that's followed by a big senton from the top turnbuckle to the floor. But for all of Doki's crazy moves, he ends up back in the numero dos and submits to that. Doki thinks he knows Despy better than anyone else, and Despy gives Doki credit for his lucha libre abilities, which he admits are better than his. So, and he says it is good for Suzuki-gun for him to say that, but and that's what he'll tell himself, so it won't bother him too much. That's Despy talking there. So he was nice after the match, just not during it. This is then Uemura's match with Doki, so they were both on 0 points at this point, but Doki manages to pick up the win, suplex De La Luna, and afterwards, as I mentioned, he was quite complimentary of Uemura. He says he should be a heavyweight. Next up, Doki had Bushi, and the MX is countered into a ridiculous hold that hilariously hands Doki a victory. I don't even describe it. I just say that much. Sorry. It was a hilarious victory of some kind. And this eliminates Bushi from the tournament mathematically. Doki goes to Doki. Wow. 4 points. I can't wait to stop saying his name. And Bushi won't let this last match go to waste despite the ultimate result. But Doki is overjoyed. He's got another couple points on the board. And that brings us to his final match against Taguchi. But we'll go through Taguchi's tournament quickly. We have the first match against Desperado. He picked up a win there, funnily enough. So it was a bunch of low blows back and forth attempted, Dodons attempted. On the fourth attempt, Despy rolls through into a pin, but Taguchi rolls Desperado back over, picks up a sneaky surprise win for the pervert. And Despy after the match calls him a dirty man. He thinks that he wouldn't be under a dirty man that long. Can't be right. Refs aren't supposed to hold a grudge. But Taguchi says it was awesome. He says he felt good going in, but you never know until you get in there. And he thinks he can, or he could have won the tournament if it was held earlier in the year. But he wants a shot at the tag titles. Oh, actually, that's funny. I didn't remember that. A bit of a spoiler, but he beat Desperado as well, so he earned his shot at the champion. Next up, Taguchi had Ishimori, and I would have already covered this one as well. So it was another surprise win, I think. Hold on. Taguchi does embarrassingly well against the champion. Speaking of embarrassing, Taguchi tries a pin similar to the one he used to win on the opening night of the tournament, but Ishimori rolls him back over and pulls down hard on his tights to secure the 3 count. So hard in fact, he pulls Taguchi's tights right down, exposing his buttocks. So Ishimori actually got the victory on this one. Taguchi knows his butt was out, but he didn't expect the level of competition to be this high somehow against the champion. And he believes he can have another run with the title after this match. Obviously doesn't think much of the champion Ishimori. And then, although, there might be something to the way he delivers this that's sarcastic or something that I can't pick up on through the translation. He's got Wato up next, so these guys have both kind of done surprisingly well at the beginning of this tournament. Wato's on full 4 points going into the third match, and in this one, Wato goes over the top with a sunset flip and drags Taguchi's tights down with him. Taguchi rolls back the other way and both pins and aggressively teabags Wato and wins the match, which is just disgusting to Wato. He can taste the sack sweat. So Tenzan protests on Taguchi's... he protests on Wato's behalf. I've got this wrong. But Taguchi keeps his funky weapon out, taunting Wato, and then suddenly becomes emotional. Because it's such a big victory. It wasn't a big deal if he had beaten Ishimori, but it's a big deal that he beats Wato and goes to 4 points. So after the match, Tenzan thinks Taguchi should have been disqualified. Taguchi keeps showing his funky weapon. He says, "I know everyone out there panicked because of my butt." That's a direct quote. Well, not really. It's a direct translated quote. He predicts a tournament victory and 2 title defenses across Wrestle Kingdom. So, yeah, Taguchi is really confident. Next up, he's got Sho. Taguchi counters the sunset flip by pulling down his tights. Sho picks up the win later with a shock arrow. And now Taguchi's feeling a bit of remorse. He says, "Alright, from now on my tights will stay fastened." Although at the time he's just slumped on the floor and his underwear is still showing. And he does say, "But I do enjoy wrestling in the buff." And then just kind of crawls away with his tights still down. Next up he had Bushi. And he lost to Bushi with an MX. And the pants stayed on at the end, at least. I'm not sure about the middle, because Bushi's the other one. I don't really watch the matches. Taguchi said he would stop bearing his bottom, but he did it again and still lost. So obviously he did it at some other point of the match. It wasn't at the end. Next up is Uemura, and he says he will not expose his butt. Nor will Uemura, he predicts. So in that one, the fans, we mentioned this when fans got behind Uemura, but Taguchi did take him seriously. And said, just had some words of encouragement for Uemura after the match. He was a bit more serious than usual, it seemed. Taguchi's next match was against Robbie Eagles, and that was when he went down to the Ron Miller special. He says after the match that he heard a crack. He thinks his leg's broken, although his heart remains intact. And next up is Hiromu. He looks forward to that match. We go there, and that's his second last match. Hiromu takes it. It was a roll-up that just did it just over 25 minutes. This match went, so Taguchi pushed Hiromu a fair bit there. And Hiromu says after the match that, you know what, he was wrong. That Taguchi's no ordinary pervert. He's a fantastic pervert. And this is what he was saying in because this is the main event. He was kind of, complimenting Taguchi in the ring. So Taguchi tries to re-enter the ring and share in the moment, but then Hiromu's like, "No, get out, leave." And then backstage, Taguchi believes he gave Hiromu a good fight, but he is still surprised, or he's surprised he can still stand and talk. So it was a tough match. But that was his second last match. The final match was Doki versus Ryusuke Taguchi. Doki on 4 points, Taguchi on 6 points. So obviously he doesn't play a part in the finals series at all, this one, but there was an interesting history lesson from Charlton, who noted Taguchi was one of the first dojo kids to go back, or to go on excursion as part of the Young Lions program back in 2005, 15 years later, and it's now an accepted rite of passage. So, I mean, not to do with the match, really, just, I didn't know that. Unfortunately for this veteran pervert, however, his junk is shown the passage to the corner post. Taguchi pulls down his tights on a sunset flip, and Doki gets a full face, or a face full of booty. Taguchi booty. Taguchi counters the suplex de la Luna into an ankle lock. Doki counters the Dodon into an Italian necktie, or the Doki Choki. It was not particularly graceful, mind. The ankle lock is locked back on, and the Dodon follows to end another very undercard match. Taguchi's 70th win in Best of Super Juniors. Of all time, of course. He didn't win 70 times in this tournament. He ends the tournament with a respectable 8 points. Doki is, oh, at least he's not last. He ends on 4 points. And in their promo, they both basically say the same thing. They just want to do better next year. So that is the second match on the final night. The third match was between Way of the Blue Grandma, Master Wato, and Hiromu Takahashi, which of course does play a part in how the finals may go. Hiromu still in it. So let's go through Wato's trip to the final night. We've already talked about the first match. His opening match was against Uemura. He won with the TTD, Tenzan Tombstone Driver, and Tenzan was very proud of him and says he taught him the move. He'll teach him the Anaconda Vice as well. And then Robbie Eagles was his next opponent, and yeah, I don't know. This match happened. Wato won again. Oh, this time he hit the TTD, and yeah, the RPP was the actual finish, which is a very impressive move. What did he say? Wato said after the match that the match was enjoyable, and then he just waits for Tenzan to save him from another awkward interview. Then he had Taguchi, so we just talked about this one, but it was a kind of disgusting finish. Wato wasn't happy with it. Tenzan, yeah, as I mentioned, thought Taguchi should have been disqualified, but Wato didn't have a lot to say about it. He doesn't have a lot to say about any of these matches, really. He faced Desperado, which is Wato's first main event. I wonder where this one... Oh, doesn't matter. It was his first main event, and he, after an overly elaborate setup in the form of a twisting head scissors, leads to a bridging pin that surprisingly keeps Desperado down. And Wato's attacked after the match, but Tenzan makes the save with some Mongolian chops. And he picked up the win, but I guess now for the hard part, he's got to cut a promo. So he kind of awkwardly hobbles around the ring and says he'll win the Best of Super Juniors. And then in English he says, "I will be the Grand Master." So that was his big main event win and his big main event promo. A star in the making for sure. Backstage, Wato's knee is hurt, but he says he still had fun. And Desperado says he doesn't even consider that a real loss. Anyway, it is though, because Wato's now on 6 points. He takes on Doki, and easy corkscrew senton bon win, 8 points. Next he had Sho. Now this is not quite as easy. Sho may be the man to stop the unstoppable Grandma Force, and in fact he is. Shock Arrow does the trick, which takes Sho to 8 points, by the way, makes them equal. Wato actually went into that match above him. Tenzan thinks Wato is still in it. Sho credits Wato, saying he was still a young lion at Wato's age, so he respects how well Wato's doing. And then we have Bushi up next for Wato. He loses to the MX. And I'm not sure why. I mean, if you want to put Wato over, then of all people, why is he going down to Bushi? Because it's kind of, I mean, it's not 50-50 booking, but it does kind of, it's 50-50 tournament booking, I suppose, because if you get notable wins, it seems a little undone by the fact that then they just lose to average guys, and it just levels them out. And that's the idea, is to level out the tournament so that everyone finishes on a respectable score. But yeah, that's kind of 50-50. So yeah, they both go to, so that's a couple losses in a row for Wato. They're both on 8 points now. Wato is hurting backstage. He seems to always be hurting backstage. He cannot believe Bushi beat him. He says he'll still win the tournament, and afterward he will go after everyone that beat him. And Tenzan reassures him of his chances. At the same time, he does seem to be holding back some dissatisfaction in this loss. And the second last match for Wato was Taiji Ishimori. And it looked to be a skillful counter that Wato had pulled off, but the champ transitions into the crossface before moving along to the bloody cross and picking up the win to take him to 12 points and leaving Master Wato on 8 points going into the final round. Wato says he wants that belt and he wants another match. Ishimori apologizes for earlier comments he had. He thought Tenzan was Wato's bodyguard, but it actually turns out Tenzan's just another diva. He believes Wato is capable, but still very green. So there's Wato's path way to the Grand Master final round. And he faced there a fellow that is like if you gave like an 8-year-old kid a whole bottle of red cordial and they just sculled that down and then they passed out. Somehow they pass out. I guess you might have to induce them in a coma, a safe one, and then somehow you filmed that 8-year-old's red cordial dreams. I think that dream would look something like Hiromu's reality. Was that a good description? Does that make sense? Anyway, he started the tournament off versus the champion, Taiji Ishimori. And speaking to what I've just said, he's got this scrapbook, and I mean, think about it. He's got the scrapbook. He's drawing like, funny pictures of everyone. He's look at his outfit. Jesus, that looks like something a kid dreamed up. And then, I mean, he's got his plush toys. His promos are really kind of... Hiromu might be the one that drinks a bottle of red cordial before every match. Alright. What do we have happening on this one? I know I've already covered it, so I'll just kind of go to the finish. If you want to know my extended thoughts on this match, please check out a podcast I did probably 6 weeks ago. Or more. 7 maybe. Who knows? Okay. But I remember it being a pretty good match. It was a bit of a slip, I remember. There was a botch. But Hiromu turns it into a perfect arm drag counter before rolling through, lifting him up and hitting a Death Valley driver. The time bomb follows and Ishimori stays down. Hiromu's asked why Ishimori doesn't just... Or he asks in the promo why Ishimori doesn't just hand over his belt. He says the fans must be tired after a long show. He's tired too. Then backstage, he says, all of that just for 2 points. And then, I already went over this last time. He's got a tough match against Despy next, and he asks for questions, and then no one says anything, so he walks off, and then someone says, alright, a question. And so he comes back and complains that they took too long to ask the question, so he doesn't let him ask a question. Now, for the match with Desperado. So there's a long history between these guys, and Desperado pretty much always beats Hiromu. And it was an intense match. It was really good until the ref bump and the low blow. No prizes for guessing who from. Despy takes the chance to grab a chair. And then he hits Hiromu's leg. Numero Dos attacks the same leg, just as Red Shoes stirs. So Hiromu's arms are trapped. There's a verbal submission, I suppose. And the crowd goes dead. Despy laughs about having made Hiromu quit. He calls Taguchi and Wato ham and eggers. Backstage, Hiromu says, one's character is not something that changes overnight. That's it. Next up, you had Bushi, his teammate. And I think I went over this one as well. So they strike back and forth. Hiromu hits a lariat, starts setting up the finish. Bushi nearly catches him out with that weird pin that he does that I don't really like. Hiromu hits a Death Valley driver into the corner and then one in the center before going for the time bomb. Hits it perfectly and wins the match to go to 4 points. We are all witness to Hiromu's prophecy. We will have more fun together. And then he falls asleep backstage after his promo on the concrete. Doki was next. Yeah, good match. Time bomb ends it. And Hiromu, no, I didn't take down Hiromu's notes after that match. He had Uemura next. Of course, he beats him. That was with the double leg crab. Hiromu, was impressed with Uemura after this match. He wants to see him fight more. And Robbie Eagles was Hiromu's next match. That knocked Eagles out of the tournament. And like I said, at least he beat him with the time bomb too. So that was kind of definitely not putting Eagles over. But in a small sense, it's like, well, I used my best move to beat you. That's pretty good. And he calls, he says the match was awesome. And he says that he likes the pain, and that's what separates pro wrestlers from normal people. And then he calls on Sho, he calls Sho Ibushi's #1 fan. I don't know what that is about exactly, but Sho must be a bit of an Ibushi fanboy. That's his next opponent. They lariat each other back and forth. There's a sunset bomb that has a neat counter by Sho. He catches an armbar on the apron. Dynamite plunger lands with force, as everything in this match has at the 10-minute mark. They're going all out. Hiromu wants the time bomb, but Sho has it well scouted. A couple of German suplexes from Sho, and then a lift into an armbar. Hiromu is frantically scurries across to get to the ropes. They trade more huge lariats. They both kick out at one. Sho hits his lazy cross-armed pile driver. Hiromu kicks out at 2. Shock Arrow is next, and that lands. And Hiromu stays down. So Sho gets a big win, goes to 10 points. Hiromu's also on 10 points at this point. Sho, really happy to have beaten Hiromu. That was the main event, so he, cut a promo in the ring. But then backstage, Hiromu is on his hands and knees. He admits that he's bothered by the loss, but is upset and delighted at the same time. He wonders how Sho has changed so much in such a short amount of time. He feels comprehensively defeated, but he will avenge this loss and the one to Desperado. So his second last match was against Taguchi, and as mentioned, they had a long match, but Hiromu ends up winning with a roll-up. He, calls Taguchi a fantastic pervert, and then backstage says that, he doesn't want to say it, but that all New Japan juniors should respect that pervert. And that was, all he had to say in that one. This brings us to the third match on the final round of the Best of Super Juniors. Master Wato taking on Hiromu Takahashi. So Master Wato's out. He's only on 8 points, but of course Hiromu Takahashi can get to the final with a win here. They run at each other like they've got no time to waste. And Wato gives, not a long match, but Wato is given the honor and the respect of the much more brutal Time Bomb 2 to end this one. But it was good. It was really good. It was a destruction derby of a match. And Hiromu takes it, goes to 14 points, and says, does he say, no, he didn't, I didn't catch any comments from Hiromu after the match, but Wato always wanted to be a part of the Best of Super Junior, and says, well, Tenzan says that he did great. Actually, no, yeah, Hiromu asked if Wado thought he could win if he just went faster. So I guess, yeah, Hiromu kind of calling out Wado for his poor choice of tactic there, just kind of running headfirst at him, but he still sees potential in Wato. So there it is. That's the third match, the second last match of the finals, and this one is again definitely very much a part of how the grand final will be contested, because we've got two guys on 12 points, Sho and Taiji Ishimori. So first up, Sho, me, some personality. He started his Best of Super Junior tournament against Bushi and took Bushi wasn't afraid to bend the rules to take the early advantage. Sho hooks on an armbar, won't let go, nearly gets him pinned because Bushi rolls him up. But there's a deadlift German suplex followed by the power breaker, and when that doesn't work, a shock arrow does. But I didn't think much of this match, to be honest. Sho gets up 2 points to start his tournament, and he says third time's the charm for him. This is his third Best of Super Juniors appearance. Next match was against Doki, and as stated previously, Doki attacks him with the pipe. Oh, does it say? I didn't actually say pipe specifically. Whatever. Attack before the bell. Doesn't end up mattering because he does the shock arrow again, beats Doki. And yeah, Sho recalled their matches in Mexico, but despite Doki being kind of mean to him in his promo, Sho's pretty nice about Doki. He's decent. He's a decent promo. I mean, I made fun of his personality before, but he speaks with conviction. He's got a confidence about him. Anyway, he's got Eagles next, and Eagles gets the win over Sho. Sho says he was just thinking about the rest of the tournament when he tapped. He weighed up his options in the moment. He kind of regrets tapping, but he did it to save himself in the next match, which is against Taguchi. And I guess it ends up working for him because Shock Arrow picks up the victory. Sho refers to Taguchi as coach. He says Desperado's next, and that he is. Despi is making use of the chair by getting that taken from him on purpose, only to use the bell hammer that he had tucked into his pants. Hits a nice spine buster. Sho counters the numero dos into an armbar. There's the last ride power breaker that doesn't keep Despi down, so Sho goes for the shock arrow, only for Desperado to try a low blow, but he missed and it still avoided the move though. And then a punch from Desperado is missed by the referee. Not that that would have made a difference. And Pinche Loco is the result of that closed fist illegal strike. So Desperado picks up the win there. Sho goes or stays on 6 points. Despi, I guess this was a main event because he tells Sho to wait. He wants to give him a compliment. And he says, Sho is not weak. So it's not a lot of praise, but it's something. Desperado says he's going to win the best, blah, 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 blah. Oh, actually, that is a bit relevant. So he says he's going to win the best of Super Juniors. He says, with Sho's leg the way it is now, he will probably lose the rest of his matches. And backstage he calls Sho a klutz. But that makes him unpredictable in the ring. So he, I don't know, it's kind of all backhanded compliments, but it's better than some of the things he says about other people. So yeah, Sho's backstage. The tapping out didn't help him this time. He's hobbling badly. I mean, he didn't tap out in this match, but yeah, that couldn't save him here. He says he's learned a lot from watching Desperado. He's upset to see the junior tag titles with him, and is upset that he couldn't beat him. But he did have fun, and will have revenge someday. And he says that he'll sacrifice his leg to win the best of Super Juniors if he has to. So he's changed his. I guess he's really affected by that tap out to Eagles. He doesn't want to wrestle like that anymore. He says he'll just do whatever it takes to win. And next up, Master Wato. He beats him. So that's a pretty big... I mean, in this tournament, that's a pretty big win. As I said, Wato was above Sho when this match happened. He was on 8 points, Sho was on 6. So, yeah, but we went over that one. Sho had Hiromu Takahashi next. And we've been through this one as well. This is another big win for Sho. Shock Arrow does it. And he says that match was a thrill. Maybe some fans don't know this, but Sho admits he's not a good talker. he just speaks from the heart. He's really happy to have beaten Hiromu, but at the same time cannot be satisfied until he wins the tournament. And then backstage says that he needs a moment, but he's very aware of what's ahead of him. It's the last placed fighter, Uemura, and then the IWGP champion. So opposite ends of the spectrum there. And that is the second last match here, Uemura. So again, already covered. They went over 15 minutes, but Shock Arrow does it, I believe. I don't actually make a note of it, but I imagine the Shock Arrow did it. Sho picks up the victory, goes to 12 points, and is looking forward to his match with Ishimori and heading past him to the final. So let's talk about Ishimori. Muscular Chihuahua. Or maybe just the charisma of a Chihuahua with a Karen haircut. Okay, we've already been through his first match. It was against Hiromu, and he lost. And Hiromu tells him to just hand over the belt now. But backstage, Ishimori is in not as much of a poor mood as I would expect. But he didn't really, I don't know, say a lot, which is going to become a trend. Next he had Taguchi, and we've talked about this one as well, of course. Taguchi, the tights fail him on this occasion. They're pulled down, he's pinned using them, and Ishimori thinks Taguchi fans are a bunch of perverts. Doki was next. He used the title here, but that was only really in response to Doki using his pipe. And that's actually an interesting point on Ishimori, is that he's probably the cleanest wrestler in the whole of Bullet Club. He wins here with the Bloody Cross, and then chokes Doki with his own pipe for a while. But after the match, he says... or he recalls, this is where I was supposed to recalls a comment from Despy-san about his promo ability, or lack thereof. And he agrees. Ishimori doesn't think he's a good promo. He says, Desperado is a good talker, but that's not enough to take this title, which is a fair comeback. He had Uemura next, and again, it's been covered. Uemura gives him a good go, but Ishimori takes the victory, goes to 6 points. Ishimori knows that he isn't cool like Despy, and he doesn't have the spotlight like Hiromu, but what he does have is the title, and he doesn't want anyone to forget who the champion is. Next up he goes Eagles, and he wins with a Bloody Cross again. Ishimori had to win for Bullet Club and El Fantasmo. I don't know exactly what that means. I guess Eagles and Fantasmo have a bit of a rivalry. Whatever. We might get to the... what time? No, I probably won't get to it. I was going to say maybe we can get to the Super Juniors, but have to save that for the next one, I think. Bushi... Sorry, not Super Juniors. We're doing that right now. The Super J Cup is what I meant. Next up, Ishimori had Bushi, and that dumb pin when he lies on top of his opponent upside down is counted into the crossface, and then there's a bit too much space between them at first, but Ishimori rolls over and secures it a bit better, and then Bushi has to tap, and the champion is the first in either tournament here to reach double figures. He goes to 10 points. And he doesn't think much of Bushi. He sees no ambition in him. And he calls him Hiromu's sidekick. Ishimori then took on El Desperado. 53 matches in tag team wrestling across New Japan and Noah, but somehow this is their first singles meeting. And for all his muscles, Ishimori looks like he could fall over at any moment with that big shredder helmet on. That big thing he wears to the ring. They start with some brawling on the outside. Ishimori starts working on Desperado's arm, and he's not too proud to cry out in pain. Kelly notes that the lack of a crowd really highlights the pain being both dealt and endured in the ring. Taiji lands a shoulder breaker and goes for the crossface, emphasizing the tactic behind targeting the arm, because he has to secure that to lock in the hold, but still Desperado manages to reverse that into the numero dos, more so to escape rather than any real effort at winning the match with that at that point. They rise with elbows back and forth, build momentum toward an eventual guitarra de angel. Probably could pronounce that wrong. But it's easier than describing what the move actually is. A double underhook, overhead, gun wrench, backbreaker rack, transitioned into a powerbomb. Okay, so that got a 2 count. Despy attempts a referee push during the transition at the time, but it was unsuccessful, as was the Pinche Loco attempt. Taiji counters that into the Cypher Utaki. Ishimori wants a bloody cross, but Desperado charges him into the corner with the referee conveniently behind him at the time. Despy tries to strike Ishimori with the title, but he misses. With the referee still down, Ishimori decides he may as well try the same. The referee recovers before Despy, however, and grabs hold of the belt. Despy uses this to low blow the champion and punch him in the face before a Pinche Loco to finish him via pinfall. So Ishimori can't believe that he lost this way, but he admits defeat. Despy says he's mocked him in the past for his short arms, but he takes it back and says Ishimori is an amazing champion and he only won by luck. He does not feel like he truly defeated Ishimori. Despy says he doesn't like math and he doesn't know where he stands or even how many matches are left. Yeah, okay. But anyway, back to Ishimori. He suffers defeat there. He's got Master Wato next, and he makes somewhat short work of him. Crossface, bloody cross, 1, 2, 3. Ishimori apologizes for his earlier comments. Yeah, well, I mentioned this. He calls Tenzan a diva. Wato's still green. Okay, so next he had oh, hold on. What's going on here? I think I pasted a bit too much. Hiromu. Yeah, no, I think I've just pasted a touch too much. Okay, so, sorry, the final match. Sho versus Taiji Ishimori. They are both on 12 points. Sho tries a high-angle German suplex on the apron, but that backfires when Taiji lands on his feet and comes back with a pile driver right on the edge of the apron. Kelly points out that despite being Bullet Club, Ishimori hasn't had any interference during this tournament. And it was a clean win here too. Bloody cross. 1, 2, 3. And it was a good match too. The champion has not quite done enough, however. The head-to-head scoring means that he relies on Bushi defeating Desperado if he is to face Hiromu in the final. But Desperado in the final match, which we'll come up to here next, he holds his fate in his own hands. So, still, either way, Taiji Ishimori did what he had to in the final match. He goes to 14 points. Show ends on 12 points. Shows in tears. He hates to admit it, but he has never felt like he was fighting by himself, that there's something else reassuring him along the way. He is disappointed not to be at the top yet. I don't really know what any of that means, except the last part, I guess. Taiji warns not to get pro wrestling and video games mixed up, and to take his advice, whatever that might be. So, yeah, pretty good tournament from both of these guys, leading us to the final, and but not the main event. The World Tag League was the main event of this show, but the final Best of Super Junior round match was between El Desperado and Bushi. Desperado really won me over in this tournament, if anyone did. If anyone in this tournament won me over, made me a fan, it was Desperado. So let's race through it. He started with Taguchi in the first round, or opening round, and somehow lost to Taguchi. We've already been over that, but he's, he kind of blamed the referee, didn't think he really lost. Next was his match against Hiromu, and this was the one that he won. It was a main event. He made Hiromu submit. He next had Uemura, who who did he... Oh, that's right, it was like a roll-up or a cradle that kind of stole the win here, because Uemura really gave him a good fight, and Despy actually was kind of unprepared for this one, it seemed, and he gives Uemura some credit after this. How come I didn't have any promo from his match after Hiromu? Oh well. And so he beats Hiromu, he beats Uemura, and then he's got Master Wato. And then Master Wato's first main event, he comes off with the win. So Despy goes down again. 4 points, not the greatest start. He says after that one that that's right, that he didn't consider it a real loss because he's still got energy. Takes on Sho next, and now he's pulling out the tricks. He's hitting Sho with the hammer. He punches him in the face to set up the Pinche Loco, which wins the match. And then after the match, just says he'll win Best of Super Juniors, and Sho will probably lose every other match, and he's stronger than Sho, he'll win the tournament. Just pretty basic stuff, really. Next up was Doki. And how can I not... Wait, it's just spelled wrong. It's spelled Dookie. It's not spelled Doki. D-O-K-I would be Doki. Okay. Yeah, that's right. On this one, Despy was like, despite obviously their Suzuki-gun affiliation, he was still like being pretty dirty. So I guess when you have had such a poor start to the tournament, he can't really be taking chances now. So he ends up submitting Doki with the numero dos, and gives him better credit. He was actually kind of sort of nice in a backhanded way to everyone throughout this tournament. Next he had Taiji Ishimori. I went through this one in a bit of detail just before, so this was a good back and forth match. It was a ref bump. Ishimori tried to was going to try to hit Desperado with the title, because that's what he tried on Ishimori, but the referee woke up in time to stop that. So Despy low blows the champion, punches him in the face, then Pinche Loco to beat him with a pinfall. And Ishimori can't believe he lost, but Despy apologizes for making fun of his short arms, and that he's amazing champion. Yeah, again, Despy's like nice after this one. He's Can't believe he won. He thinks it was just luck. And then he beats Robbie Eagles next for the Pinche Loco and says he saw Eagles doubting himself. He knows that Eagles belongs. He says you should act like you belong because everyone knows Bushi is the lame one. So that was his second last match, and he faces the lame one in his final match. Bushi, Jim Boo lose she. Face show first, did Bushi. And yeah, I don't care about Bushi. Let's just run through the results. So he lost a show. Even his promos suck too. He just says basic stuff. Like on this one, despite a poor start, he will not forget this loss. Cool. And then he beats Uemura with the best thing he does all tournament, I think, was this F5 MX. And yeah, Bushi was just unhappy Kanemaru isn't there because he wants to pay him back. And he says some nice things about Uemura. He takes on Hiromu next and loses. He beats Robbie Eagles with the MX. And the same to Taguchi. He beats with an MX. Did Bushi say anything? Oh yeah, Bushi's knee's hurting at this point, but he didn't tap. He says he's got a few days to recover now, so but he considers the next match do or die against Taiji Ishimori, which he dies, I guess, because he lost. He taps out to the crossface, and that's when Ishimori calls Bushi Hiromu's sidekick. So Bushi's got 6 points and goes to 8 points, beating Wato with the MX for some reason. And didn't say much after that one either. Had Doki, who he lost to. So that was cool. Anyway, that brings us to the final match. So Bushi ended up on 8 points going into the final match. Desperado's on 12. Despi takes a pen from Milano at ringside and sticks it in Bushi's eye. He mocks Bushi as he beats on him. Bushi has a short, spirited comeback, but his MX is turned into a sweet spinebuster, followed by numero dos, and he keeps Bushi in the center, locks up those arms to give him no chance to escape, and eventually forces victory, though not one particularly hard fought, by the way. I mean, for I guess it's only the co-main event, but it's like it's the final round match in the Best of Super Juniors, and I don't know, it was kind of whatever. Desperado just beats him, as he should. I mean, he should really beat him strongly. I don't disagree with that. But yeah, then he takes the mic. He says Bushi was tougher than he expected, which is another backhanded compliment given he really didn't have too much trouble with him. He says he isn't good at talking in front of crowds. He is better one-on-one. So he calls out Hiromu, who promptly comes out, enters the ring, and Hiromu is happy for a quick chance at revenge in reference to their opening night match. So there's your main event. That's the final. Then backstage, Despi says that he has never finished first at anything in his life. He can't remember much about the match. He kind of seems unstable, like he's got a concussion or something. He appreciates that Hiromu came out. He says his head is killing him, and he'll say more on Twitter, or maybe he'll send an email in a few days. And then Bushi just ends up saying that he hates Desperado, but he cannot deny his ability. So that's the Best of Super Juniors round matches. We ended with the final rankings of El Desperado on top on head-to-head. 14 points because he beat Hiromu Takahashi, who was also on 14 points. Those two go into the final. Taiji Ishimori on 14 points as well, but somehow, whatever the head-to-head is, I guess did he lose to both those guys? I don't know, whatever it is. Sho ends up on 12 points. Master Wato, Bushi, Taguchi, and Eagles all got 8 points. Doki got 4 points, and Uemura got nothing. 0 points for Doki. So that was that. I finished with a bit more time to spare than I thought, but this is still enough time for one podcast. Let's make it pretty neat like this. Though I will try and get something out sooner rather than later, because I have pretty much caught up on everything else. There's a bunch of stuff that's happened in between the Best of Super Juniors ending and the and now, right before Wrestle Kingdom, of course, in a couple of days. Looking forward to that. So maybe I'll try and do a bonus something or other in between, or we'll see how we go. But I'm going to leave this one there. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, have a good one.